All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining the April 2024 community call. My name is Will. I am on the Radius PM team, and I'm very excited to speak to you today about some very exciting new features that we've released as a part of the past two releases, because we're doing a little bit of catch up this month. So without further ado, I will jump into the agenda. So first we'll go through kind of the community and do a quick recap of all the things available, all the communication mechanisms available to the Radius community. We'll talk a little bit about what's changed, any updates we've had on the Radius roadmap over the past month. We'll talk about the version 31 and version 0.32 releases and all the features that came along with it. And of course, with that, we'll have some demos. We'll have Vishwa, who will give us a demo of Terraform from private Git repos, a feature that was released recently as a part of 31. And then Will Smith will be demoing the Radius dashboard kind of end-to-end experience from RAD init to the dashboard and demo some of the features of the dashboard. And then after that, Christian will be jumping in to talk about the application graph zoom feature and kind of share his journey on being the first external contributor to the dashboard repo and kind of walk us through that and share his experiences. And then we'll do open Q&A at the end and wrap it up. All right, well, we'll jump in right in. So before we get started, I always like to refresh what the community call is all about and point you to some of the resources available to you. So remember that this call is for you, the community, for you to see all the latest and greatest in terms of features and demos. It's for you to ask questions and share feedback. So please be active in chat. You can type in your questions in the chat, and we have the Radius maintainership team all in the call, and we'll answer your questions as best as we can. And we can also unmute you if you raise your hand during the call, and we'll be able to unmute your microphone, and you'd be able to ask your questions via voice. And then another quick reminder is that we have a RadApp.io Google group that you may join to receive updates and news about Radius. So feel free to click on this link here and join the Google group to stay up to date. And of course, the community call every month is sent to the subscribers of that Google group. So along with other news, you'll get also the community call invites. So let's talk a little bit about the Radius roadmap. So since the last community call, we've had a couple of things get delivered. So first of all, we have the dashboard. The initial version of our Radius dashboard is now all packaged into the Radius install that Will would demonstrate later for us. We've also completed delivery of the application graph API. This is the API that drives the visualizations behind the Radius dashboard. And then we also have local dev recipes. I think this was something that was delivered even before the previous community call, but just a refresher that is something that was considered done in the roadmap now. The private registry authentication, this one's half done. That's why it's still in the developing column. We've completed the Terraform modules from Git repos part of it. And there's some remaining work in the private registry authentication, specifically for private bicep modules that we are still working on. So stay tuned for that. And then, of course, we have several kind of in the design phase. We have some Terraform recipes enhancements that we are planning that are currently in the design phase. And then GitOps-based deployment. This is something that we've heard from several folks in the community that is important for their enterprise use cases. So this is something that we are investigating now, and we'll hope to get into the technical design phase pretty soon. It's currently going through kind of requirements design. And then, of course, you may all go to the Radius roadmap linked over here in this slide. You may go in there and view each of the items in the proposed or accepted buckets, or even propose something to be on the roadmap. If there's anything on the roadmap currently that you find useful and would like higher priority on, feel free to go in and comment and upvote these issues in the GitHub board, and that way we can get the data points on what's important for the community and prioritize accordingly. Great. So let's move on to the Radius releases. So the two most recent releases are version 0.31 and version 0.32. And a couple of things we just wanted to highlight. These releases were, a lot of them were fixing, a lot of the things we did in these releases were fixing kind of our tests, our functional tests, our unit tests, and just overall kind of engineering excellence items that we won't highlight here in this meeting today as a feature, but those are fixes that we've made that will help make the lives of the engineers contributing to Radius much easier. So very excited to have made a lot of progress on not only the functional testing, but also the release process is much more automated and much smoother now. In terms of features, we have kind of three main new features that we've released as part of these releases. The first is Radius Dashboard. So if you might remember from a previous community call, we did do a demo of the dashboard, but it was a kind of an offline, like manual build from source. Now the Radius dashboard has actually been integrated into the Radius install. So when you do a rad init with the latest version of Radius, the Radius dashboard will be installed automatically into your cluster. And when you do a rad run of an application that you've authored, the dashboard, the integrated dashboard will actually run and be automatically port forwarded, so you can access it via your browser and kind of look at the dashboard of everything that's currently deployed on your cluster. So we'll demo that here in a little bit, but a very cool feature. And then the other feature that will be demoed later is a new feature for Terraform recipe modules. So we now support recipes with Terraform modules from private Git repos. This was a highly asked for feature because, of course, Terraform modules in the enterprise kind of use case will need to come from the private internal Git repositories. So this is now supported, and Visho will demo this here in a little bit. And as always, we share the very fun changelog. As I said earlier, a lot of the changes were for sort of engineering excellence and fundamentals and fixing the testing and release process. So you'll see a lot of the PRs reflect that here. But yeah, feel free to click into these and go explore all the various changes that we've made into Radius over the past two releases. And then, of course, we wouldn't be here if it weren't for our wonderful community and contributors. So we always like to celebrate our new contributors over the past two releases. So @JHandle made their first contribution in PR number 7095. Thank you very much for your contribution to the main Radius repo. And Christian, who is going to demo with us today, talk us through some of his experience with making a contribution to the dashboard repo on for a front-end development. He's going to share a little bit about what it feels like, or what it was like to contribute to the front end of Radius today. Great. Well, thanks. And let's give everybody a round of applause for their contributions, whether you're a new contributor or an existing contributor. Really appreciate your contributions to the project, and we hope to do a lot more of this in the future.
I'd also want to mention too, this is for the last release, right? Because I think I can
32.
think of one person in particular that's been sending us docs PRs that's here in the meeting, but isn't being recognized because it wasn't in the last release.
Oh, yes. So it wasn't as a part of the last release, so we're going to talk about it in the next community call. But since it's hot off the press, Nick, I believe Nick Beanham, I think is the. Yeah, perfect. So Nick contributed something pretty useful to our how-to guides using the PodSpec, Kubernetes PodSpec feature. So stay tuned for that next community call. We'll cover that in a lot more detail. But yeah, that's currently live in the docs page as well. Thanks for that reminder, Ryan. Anything else? All right, perfect. So on the lines of contributions, for those of you who, maybe you haven't contributed to Radius yet, or maybe you want to get your feet wet in other repos within Radius, we actively mark issues as good first issues with a good first issues tag. So feel free to click on these two links to one is to the main Radius repo, and the other one is for the Radius dashboard repo. These are all issues that are tagged with good first issues and would be great candidates for you to pick up as a new contributor. These are ones that the maintainership team has deemed to be, pretty self-contained and pretty easy to get started with. So yeah, feel free to bookmark these and help us resolve some of the issues by making your contributions here. All right, so as I said earlier, Terraform modules from private Git repos was a feature that was introduced in the past release. Basically, this slide just recaps what the feature actually is. You can visit the link on this slide to go check out the how-to guide on using this feature. And without further ado, I am going to invite Vishwa to give us a quick demo of this feature.
Thank you, Will. So yeah, I'll be doing a demo on Terraform recipes stored in a private Git repositories. So until 031, Terraform recipes were supported from the modules coming from mostly all public sources like Terraform module registry, public Git repository, public S3 bucket, and some other public sources. And in the recent release, we have added support for the private sources, and currently we only support private Git repository today. Now I'm going to show configurations we need to do to use the Terraform module from a private source. So let me share my screen. Okay. Let me know if you can see my screen. Can I get a thumbs up?
Yep, we can see it.
Awesome, thanks. Okay. So as an operator, I'm going to create a private Git repository. So if you see, I have already created a private Git repository here called Redis Terraform, and I have uploaded main.tf file, which is the contents of the model that I'm going to be using in my recipe. So if you see my main.tf, it is very lightweight resource where I'm deploying a Kubernetes deployment resource and a Kubernetes service resource here. And variables, I have variables file. This provides information on the parameters that I will be passing. And I'm going to create a personal access token on my GitHub account. and I'm going to copy it. So we are going to use the personal access token as a mode of authentication uh, to access the private repository. And now I'm going to create a environment. So here I'm creating an environment uh, with these distils. So recipe config block is the new thing that we added, which says which provides a configuration recipe configuration information. So if you see, we are adding a Terraform block which has information of Terraform recipe configurations and authentication and the kind of authentication that the kind of private source that we are using, which is Git in this case, and the mode of authentication, which is personal access token. We plan on adding a few more later. And this is the domain name of a Git platform that we are using. For example, if we are using DevOps Git, it will be dev.azure.com and have a secret reference to a secret store that I have created here, and the secret store will have information about the personal access token and the username, which will be used to access the private repository. So as part of a recipe, when we are defining a recipe, I'm providing a template path of the private repository that I've created here, and the secret store will have the credential information to authenticate this GitHub repository. Yeah, so we are providing the personal access token and the username, and there is another way as well. Like if we already have a credential information stored as part of a Kubernetes secret, we can directly provide the Kubernetes secret resource in this manner. Like we can provide a resource, and this is the namespace and the resource name to access that secret as well. So I'm currently going to show like how we can pass the personal access token and username details and create an environment. So here I'm going to deploy an environment. Yeah, and I will be passing the personal access token that I just created and the username as the parameters for my environment deployment. It takes a couple of minutes to deploy. Okay. So now we have environment deployed. Now, as a developer, I'm creating a simple application, and where application is deploying the resource that I have defined as part of a recipe here. So we haven't mentioned the recipe name, so it is going to use the default recipe, and it will deploy the Kubernetes deployment resource and the service deployment that I showed in the module. So I'm going to deploy an app. App, and need to provide what environment we are using. So I'm just getting the environment ID here. Yes. Here is an entity that I want to add.
You need the
It's
file
just a
name.
type of, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is going to deploy the recipe that was defined here. So let's say, I think it is deploying the extended resource now. Yeah, so now we see that it is deployed. We can check the application graph to see the deployment, that it is deployment is successful or not. Yeah, so we can see that the deployment resource and the service resource have been deployed successfully. And yeah, these are the small changes that we need to do to use private Git repository. So yeah, that is all I had for a demo. Let me know if anyone has any questions.
That's awesome. Thank you for demoing that, and definitely this is going to get a lot of utility, I think, because that's a very important use case for using Terraform modules.
I'm curious as well, like after you've seen the demo, are there people on the call that are using Terraform, and how, if you're using Terraform, how are you hosting your like Terraform modules? Are you using Git repos? Are you using private registries? Are you using Terraform Cloud? I'd be curious to hear from people if you just want to say in chat if you're using Terraform. Bicep. We love Bicep too. Terraform and Asdo, says Nuno. We already know that, but yes, thank you, Nuno. Terraform Cloud, and Git repos. Well, thanks everybody.
Thank you, and
Thanks to all the Terraform fans out there.
yeah, thank you, and do try it this feature out, and let us know if you have any feedback or any other kind of concerns. All right, we'll move on to the next part of our agenda, which is the Radius dashboard integrated experience, and it's basically the end-to-end experience is now complete because Radius is now installed with and version as a part of your rad init command. And then, as I mentioned earlier, rad run will allow you to automatically get a port forwarded address to view the Radius dashboard. And then we have actually built the dashboard instructions into our Radius Getting Started guide. So feel free to visit that if you want to learn how to try it out for the first time. And then, of course, you can visit the dashboard documentation to learn more about the dashboard. And these are all links that are shown in this slide. And now I will invite Will Smith to do a demo of the end-to-end Radius dashboard experience. And then after Will Smith, we'll invite Christian to speak to the app graph zoom feature specifically that he had contributed as the first external contribution to the dashboard repo, and talk about his experience there. So Will, want to take it away?
Sure, Will. Thanks, Will. All right. share my screen. Boom, shebang. Hopefully that looks good for everybody. Let me know if it doesn't. So I'll start here at the root of our documentation. And I wanted to share quickly the dashboard how-to guide that Will briefly mentioned. So yeah, if you navigate in our docs to how-to guides tooling dashboard, you'll get to see this really great docs page that we've written. Thank you, Jason, for linking it. Very good. We have this docs page, which kind of tells you the motivations behind the Radius dashboard, which I believe we've gone over in a community call. Essentially, the Radius dashboard, the idea is we want a way for users to see at a glance what their applications and their environments and other Radius resources look like. And recently we've extended this with this really cool feature that we've been building, this application graph. So one of the more compelling parts of the dashboard for me, I think, is being able to see not only just in your terminal, like Fishflow was showing, you want to show your application graph. You can see it in a really useful true graph on your screen using the Radius dashboard. So what I'm going to be showing today is that the Radius dashboard is packaged and basically shipped alongside everything else in Radius. So everyone should be able to go try it out today if you're interested, and if you have any feedback or a desire to start contributing to Radius or get familiar with anything in Radius, I think the dashboard is a really great start. Yeah, obviously later, like Will mentioned, from the community, Christian is gonna talk about like his contribution experience and everything like that. But yeah, we're just starting work on this dashboard, and we've gotten it to a point where it works and it does the things that we want it to do. But there's lots of things to do there to make everyone's experience with Radius better. So that's my call to action. I think it's really cool, and I'm excited to be working on it. So yeah. Anyways. So the Radius dashboard, as I think we've mentioned before, is built on top of Backstage, which many of you in the open source world may be familiar with, because it's really a standard that a lot of dashboarding, products are building on top of. So this marketed as an open source framework for building developer portals, and I mean, in our experience, it's exactly what we had. It was really, really simple to get started and to build a bunch of really great features with the Radius dashboard using Backstage. So hopefully that lowers the bar of entry to a lot of folks, especially if you're familiar with Backstage. So yeah, the main thing I'm going to be talking about today is the installation, which, as you can see here, is installed by default as part of your Radius initialization and deployment. So I will demo that right now. So I have a cluster here. Let's see. Hopefully this is big enough. So I have a normal everyday kind cluster, and I have done a rad init. So I'm on like some latest build of Radius Edge. I installed it last night or something like that. So I'll show you. I just did a rad init to save a little bit of time. And if you do a rad init today, you will see with the last release or the current one, you'll see that we have a new pod here, dashboard, which, as you can expect, will host the Radius dashboard. So I am going to go ahead and show that now. By the way, if you are running in some sort of production scenario or trying to cut down on memory usage on your cluster or network calls or anything like that, you can easily set the dashboard to be not enabled. We're still trying to decide what's best for the installation scenario. Right now, we're doing an opt-in or opt-out system because we want folks to try it out, and at the moment we're in this stage where we have a lot of open questions as to how people want to use this and everything like that. So if you have opinions, please do file issues in the Radius repo or the dashboard repo. or bring it to attention in these kinds of meetings, in the comments, like whatever you like. We love to hear your feedback. So anyways, without further ado, let's go check out the dashboard. So what I'm going to do here is deploy an app that we all know and love, our Radius tutorial application. And I'm going to go ahead and show that once we deploy this, what happens in our dashboard. So this is the bicep file. Should be pretty standard, pretty familiar for folks. So let's go ahead and deploy it. So I think I have it in here, rad deploy, or let's do rad run. Rad run app.bicep. So if you're not familiar with the rad run commands, basically it does a app deployment, and it also forwards all of the pods for your application so that you can access the application. But it'll do an extra secret thing, which I'll reveal at the end of this deployment as well. So you can see our backend container and our gateway and our MongoDB. I'm pretty sure this is probably in a container. And we get all of our application logs and stuff, which are a lot as the Mongo container starts up. But you can see that we have our localhost 3000 connection, which is our Radius demo application, which we all know and love. And we get another one, which is 7007, which is a Radius dashboard. So check it out. During the rad run command, we get the Radius dashboard to open automatically. So this should simplify a lot of those dev scenarios that maybe like you're ratifying your application, and you just do a rad run. You want to be able to see what's going on. Well, here you go. Here's our dashboard. So we have default environments, stuff like that, and these are the things that I think we've shown before, but maybe they look a little bit better now. These are all of our local dev recipes that get loaded in during a standard rad init. And the interesting part that I want to show here is our application. So we have this application dashboard demo that we just deployed here. It's running as part of rad run. And by the way, before I move on, that's the rad run command is not the only way to open the dashboard. You can also do it with kubectl, because we just have a behind the scenes, it's basically just a Kubernetes service, if you're familiar with that, running the pod is running and the service will connect to the pod, and allow you to port forward the dashboard. So that way you'll be able to do a rad deploy and then open the dashboard. So I think we have some ideas of how to improve this, and maybe building up a rad dashboard command, or improving this further, like doing some sort of shortcut, something like that. We'd be happy to get community feedback or community contributions in this area. So yeah, please do let us know if you're interested in improving the rad dashboard experience. We definitely have lots of stuff to do here. Anyways, back to the dashboard. So we can see our application dashboard demo, and here's just the raw resource that we have, and we can see all of the resources that are part of our application. And then the coolest part, drum roll, is our application graph. So here we go. This is a pretty simple application, but you can see that this is everything that comprises our application. We have our gateway, and we have the two containers that comprise the application, this demo and their backend, the front end backend kind of thing. And then we also have like a MongoDB database, which is this portable resource applications.datastore/Mongo databases. Oh yeah, you see how it was kind of hard to read that, so I had to zoom in a little bit there. So yeah, this is the really cool feature that we had contributed by Christian. So at this point, I think I'll just let him take it away, talk about the feature a bit and his experience in getting started in the in the community contributions. So yeah, let me know if there's any questions in the comments while I pass it off.
Okay, then I take it from here. I will shortly share my screen. Talking about the experience with contributing to the dashboard. Now, first things first, I kind of managed in the last 2 decades to come around front-end topics, so to not get in touch with them. So I thought this contribution might be a good starting point, and I had some touch points with Backstage in the recent weeks. So I thought, why not support here and go down the path that Will already described, namely going to the issues and checking what's a good first issue, and then seeing if this really is applicable for complete newbies. And the one that I took was exactly the one that was just demoed with respect to the application graph zooming. Yeah, which basically described in a nice way what is expected here. So that's really super helpful from my perspective to know what you really should do. And then Ryan also brought in an additional comment that helped a lot with respect to what's used underneath the graph feature, what library is used, in order to see what's already there out of the box. And there, basically everything was there out of the box. So although there was now quite some buzz around this contribution, so you will see it was basically 2 lines of code. Which is good for a good first issue, I think. Now, this library is the React Flow library, and I have opened up the corresponding component. So what I basically did is I spun up the dashboard locally. I used a local Kubernetes cluster to serve the backend and have my front end also deployed separately. And then I basically checked which component was used in order to display the graph. And funnily, those who used it already might have noticed that you could already zoom, but you didn't know, was it a feature or a bug? The controls were simply missing. And the cool thing, I think about Backstage and all the ecosystem around that, at least as far as I have seen, is that there is a lot of stuff in there that you can just use, and that makes your life easier. And one is this controls component that encapsulates all the stuff that you need in order to do or to display the zoom effects that you just saw basically on the lower left of the screen, with zooming in, zooming out, and getting back to the overview. And you have some more options here. And basically what I then did was navigate to the right control. So basically that's under the red components area, source components, and then you have the app graph. For those of you who are React pros, no surprise for those folks like me, that basically took me a few minutes to find that one. But you find it, so that's doable. And then the structure is quite self-explanatory after some time. And the main thing, so going back to the documentation, is basically you have the React flow, you import some stuff from there, and you can also import the controls. And that was basically missing. And the only thing that you had to do was to activate the controls by integrating them into the React flow and customize it. So configure the right settings. And the only thing that was to configure was to not show the locking symbol because that was not requested. So we just have the zoom and the reset zoom features in there. And that was basically it. Then one pull request later, and here you can again see that it was really not much to do in order to activate that in a decent way. Things were there and were in the dashboard. Now, as was mentioned, how was the experience? So this was not my first contribution to Radius, and over the last couple of weeks or month where I did contributions here and there, I think the Radius contributing to Radius, be it the backend or the front end, is really a very nice thing. Folks are really supportive here and on the Discord channel, and help you to get things started, and you get feedback really quickly. So it's not like doing a PR and then waiting for weeks and then somebody saying, no, we don't need that, or that was not the way we thought about that. It's really super quick feedback, super helpful on Discord. So thanks for all the folks who are watching the messages and helping front-end newbies like me to get things started. So that's basically all from what I can say about the contribution and how the experience was.
Awesome. Thank you, Christian, for your contribution, and glad that we we made good use of the good first issues tag, and it was wonderful to see you work through your first contribution to dashboard. And it sounds like, I think earlier you mentioned that you're venturing further into the front end waters now, right? You're looking at the sorting features. Is that right?
And I'm nearly failing. So it's kind of 50-50. So 50% of the sorting is working and the other 50% is not. But let's see.
Awesome.
The year is still young.
Very exciting. Yeah, super anticipating the sorting feature. I think that would make the views of the tables, the flat list of recipes, flat list of resources, much more useful if you can sort and filter on those. So thank you, Christian, as always, for your wonderful contributions. And quick plug again for everybody. Now that you've kind of witnessed somebody talking through new contributions, definitely go back and look up our good first issues. If you're looking to get started and get your feet wet with Radius, these are all great issues to get started on. And then, of course, go to those repos, log bugs, report issues, ask for make feature requests, go to the dashboard, the roadmap, and make feature requests, upvote features. Engage with us. We'd love to get your feedback and your contributions here. Perfect. So I'll open up for any questions you might have with the Radius dashboard. I know some folks are reporting some issues with the application graph in the dashboard. I think there's a fix coming out, but take a look at the chat for some workarounds, and we'll address those.
Yeah, totally forgot to mention that that I had to fix that problem. So yeah, in the issue linked is the workaround there. So but yeah, if you try today, you'll probably run into that. If you try tomorrow, you probably won't run into that.
Yeah. Perfect. All right, and that wraps up the call today. And before we get into the open Q&A, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining and share a couple more resources as a reminder for engaging and continuing the conversation with us. Chat with the maintainership team and the community on Discord. We have a dedicated Discord server that you can join with various topic channels that you can engage with. You can go start our GitHub repo and more importantly, start contributing, whether that be filing an issue request, upvoting a feature that you like. Please engage with us there and give us those signals. You can join the Google group for the latest Radius news. We send release notes and community updates and things like that to the Google group. And then we'll be back soon next month with our next community call, where we'll talk about all the features that we're currently working on for the upcoming release. So definitely join us on all these mediums to let us know what you think. And with that, we'll go into open Q&A. So again, if you can ask questions in the chat, or if you raise your hand, we can unmute you. So here we go. All right. So Jan Henrik, did you want to ask a question?
Yes, right. I'm just coming off of mute. I just have a general question in regards to the recipes. So I was looking into contributing to some of the Radius project recipes, and I'm also quite involved with the whole bicep development and all the stuff going on around the migration of the templates and so on. So I was a little bit hesitant to contribute actual Azure recipes because I had the feeling that this is kind of similar to what's currently happening to the Azure Verified Module initiative inside of Microsoft. So I was just interested in your general stance, just in terms of Azure modules, because obviously for local development and AWS and so on, it's very valuable to have recipes and bicep files and bicep modules there. But for the Azure part, I was just wondering if it wouldn't make more sense to just use the future AVM modules and just putting in the Radius relevant tags into these modules coming from the official AVM registry.
I think it's so is it all right if I take this one?
Yes, please do.
Cool. We actually chatted with the folks who run AVM a couple weeks ago. I think the goal is we'd actually really like the community to start contributing recipes. If they can use AVM, like even better, right? So like ultimately we don't want to try and duplicate AVM, and we don't want to try and kind of create a competing project to AVM. So if you sort of think about like what would we need to do to take an AVM module and wrap it up to be a Radius recipe, like, and then the Radius recipe calls the AVM module, that I think would be the ideal solution. If you're interested to give this a try, I think we'd be very we'd be very interested to give you some support to just speaking from the kind of core team, like we'd be very interested to give you some support and kind of see what happens, like see how well it works, because we'd like that to work. Does that help?
Yeah, definitely. So like for example,
Yeah.
for the Redis cache, it would be a very great example. I can just prepare a pull request and just convert it to use the AVM module for that. And then, I mean, it makes all that stuff a lot more, a lot smaller, and just referencing that thing is helping, I think, for consistency. So if you're fine with just using AVM templates inside of the recipes, that's the answer I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that would be excellent. If you do that, we'd be fantastically excited about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be a very cool use case for recipes as well. A very cool use for recipes. Thank you. All right, Joe, did you have a question?
Hello. Yes, I have a couple. Like I have like 2 or 3 quick ones, if that's okay. I don't want to like hold everyone else up. So my first question. Sorry. So my first question is, you may have stated it, but I just want to ask again. I just missed it. But how exactly do items get onto the proposal column for the roadmap? How like just issue on the main repo?
Yeah, so that's a good question. You can create an issue on the main repo and call it a feature request if you think it's a large kind of feature scope request. We also monitor Discord for feature requests as well, and we create roadmap items from kind of discussions of larger scale projects that we find in Discord. But I think the most direct path would be create an issue in the main repo and just tag it, or just in the title mention that it's a feature request.
Okay. So my second question is about the dashboard. I didn't see it, so I was just gonna ask. Is there any plans or any thoughts on having the dashboard have the ability to make changes to it, kind of like using it like the way you would use Rancher in a cluster, but this would just be more at the application level. So you would be able to do a deployment or whatever of your apps resources in the dashboard. Is that like any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that is something that we've thought about, and we've put in sort of our longer term kind of wish list slash roadmap for the dashboard. Because right now we're focused on just kind of a read mode on the dashboard, but certainly in the future we can see a world where you can deploy an app, or apply a recipe or something in a graphical fashion like the dashboard. We do wonder about the utility, or should something like that exist, would it be useful for the community and the developers that some of the platform engineering community might be building for. So if you have like specific use cases on that, we'd love to hear from you. I think we actually have a roadmap item that might be tracking like more advanced use cases for the dashboard. I can link it over to you, and if you want to kind of like add to it or upvote that.
Can I add something, Will?
Yeah, please.
I would say, Joe, we're definitely not saying no. So like we're not saying we think it's a bad idea or anything like that. It wasn't something that was at the top of our list to work on. But if it's something that you're interested to help with, or you just want to tell us about it, like we're happy to talk more.
Sure. Yeah. That makes sense.
Especially if there's more interest. Like we kind of thought, maybe this isn't the thing to focus on, but if everybody feels like it's really important and they would use it, then that changes our mind.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And my last one, I saw that that you have an issue on the container, the serverless runtime. I was just kind of curious on what you had in mind with that. And I was just curious exactly what that would look like, because that's kind of not open-ended, but like that can mean different things to a lot of different people. So I was just kind of curious what you had in mind.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe Ryan, I'll take the first stab at this, and then and you can jump in for some additional context. But this is the ask that we've gotten a lot for serverless has been for either Azure Container Apps. We've heard folks mention ECS from AWS, and then also Azure Container Instances. So these are, it's sort of open-ended on purpose, because we're sort of exploring Radius support for all these serverless container runtimes, and we've experimented with some of them. So we're sort of like in a more investigatory, exploratory phase right now, but very interested to hear what the community like cares about the most. Right, we've heard a lot about Azure Container Apps, but it'd be great to hear what's important for you as well. Ryan, anything else to add?
Well, I think part of the question that we maybe didn't answer was, I think if I heard it right, was what would that look like? Well, when we say serverless runtime, what would that be, right? And I think if you look at kind of what's in Radius today, we were able to show deploying an application to Kubernetes. Imagine the same application going to ECS in AWS or container paths on Azure without being modified. So like no changes to the way that the application has been defined, no changes to the way that it behaves, no changes to the way, like the assets that the developer has to write. You actually get a choice. So our goal would to have the experience be kind of as seamless as possible, depending on regardless of what runtime you're targeting. Now, it would be something that the folks who configure Radius would care about. So when you set up the environment, you set up an ECS environment or an ACA environment or an ACI environment, or insert runtime here. But I think the promise is that if you've described the application, then it's going to work everywhere.
Okay, so I guess like from that, if you're like wanting to use Helm, obviously, like, well, not obviously, the way that I have been using those, like for scaling, is the Kata, and that kind of feels like serverless. So that
Yeah.
I guess that what you guys are kind of getting at is a little bit more, not more platform-ish,
Gotcha. So
specific
are
and
you
pardon.
Are you more interested in kind of an event-driven, like scale to zero, that kind of experience?
Well, I'm just curious if that could map to a
Got it.
a scaled object resource as well, or if that's like something. I don't know. I just thought that would be interesting.
Yeah. So you could imagine that we'd add auto scaling support to Radius, and then if you're deploying to Kubernetes, we would know how to configure Kata for you. And if you're deploying to another runtime that knows how to do auto scaling, we would know how to do auto scaling there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How do you want to track that, Will? Because I think auto scaling has been one of those things that we've had to work at them for a pretty long time, and we haven't really bubbled it up.
Yeah. I think we might have an item on it. If not, I will create one in the
Okay.
roadmap repo. And Joe, maybe I'll find you in the community and kind of get a little bit more detail from you to add to that.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for all the messages. I didn't mean to. Sorry for taking so long, but thank you.
Yeah, perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you for the good feedback. Awesome. Well, we are at time, but the conversation doesn't end here. Please go back to our Discord and continue to engage with us there and go into our issues, upvote whatever you want to see in Radius. And thank you very much, everybody, again, for another great Radius release. And we'll see you next month. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, guys.